So I'm Hamish Campbell. I'm the creative director of Pearl Fisher in New York, and I'm here today with my good friend.
Yep, I'm David Hartman. I'm associate creative director at Target.
And what we want to talk to you today is about a project that we did about 18 months ago. And I'm particularly happy to be on the stage talking about this because at Pearl Fisher we've been chasing Target for about 7 years, really trying to work with them. I think probably quite a few agencies have a similar kind of process, but what you learn is they finally crack and they let you have a go at working on some of their brands. But what sort of came out of this project is something that really sort of started pushing the boundaries, and we want to take you on that sort of journey and share with you like, how you can get success for both an agency and the clients. And really sort of start joining the dots between both sides, how that kind of works, and just really show you how that process and building a great relationship between the two. As everybody knows, when projects sort of come in, lots of people spend plenty of time building out the whole process. There's endless kind of timelines, working out from the start dates, the sort of meetings, the process, all very, very linear, all sort of perfectly worked out. It's all going to be so smooth. But I think we all know that's bullshit. It's not going to be like that. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be some backs and forths. There's going to be parts where you probably drive each other a bit nuts. And I'm just sort of waiting to see David say.
This has nothing to do with our project. It's all Pearl Fisher.
A little bit. But we want to share that with you and sort of lift the veil a little bit and understand how the whole kind of process works. I'm assuming everybody here knows Target. They're an incredible brand. Everyone loves them. We certainly do. But I'm hoping most of you know Pearl Fisher, but there might be one or two who don't. So I'll just give you a quick sort of insight on who we are. Pearl Fisher is a brand design agency, independently owned by the 3 founding partners. We have 2 studios, New York and London, and we're 21 this year, so we can drink, yes. Everything that we do is based on design. It's at the heart of everything we do. And we see ourselves as brand design experts. And what that means is that we bring powerful design thinking to every aspect of branding. And that allows us to bring incredibly impactful designs that really safeguard the future of your brands. And if we kind of really think about it, design is fundamental to brands. It's at the heart of what they are, how they express themselves, and how they define themselves to the world. And we see this in a very simple way, that you need to build it off a brand truth, something that's so intrinsic to the brand, that it's the core of it, and without this, it simply is not your brand. And then through design, we can create desire. And by having that core truth as you're consistent, it's something that can hold it, and it allows us to be able to be very forward-thinking in our design, in our creativity, and create huge impact with your sort of brand. And brands that create impact create change, and change is good. This is what we want to do. It can change perceptions, it can change behavior. And the way to do this and get the right effect, what you're trying to do, you've got to make sure it's meaningful and it's purposeful in any area that you're doing. And this doesn't matter if it's an evolution, a revolution, or a complete redesign. The way we work, we sort of work in 2 different areas on brands. The first one is challenges. And these are the smaller guys. They might be entrepreneurs who are starting up. It might be just a small brand relaunching. But these are the guys that don't have the huge budgets. They can't do a huge campaign. They can't sort of make that way and create lots of noise. But what they do have is strong ideas. And they're great opportunities to be able to create impact, build off their brand truth, and find a way that you can create change. Nibor is a great example of one of these brands we worked with, which has just been released. It's a brand that was started by two amazing women in New York who just happened to take a chocolate making class for fun, and they discovered a way to create chocolate that was actually good for you. And that's true, this is good chocolate. And the sort of change we had to do here was taking that perception of chocolate being a guilty pleasure, something you get seduced by, you sit there, you stuff your face, and you feel guilty about it afterwards. But we need to change perception and say this is actually chocolate you can eat, you can actually enjoy this and not feel bad about it. And we started thinking of having that bowl with the hand suggesting a portion that you can have, and you can celebrate this. And then on another level, this was an organic chocolate. We don't have to follow the codes of organics or put it sort of craft paper around it, sort of hand-printed stuff. We'll just be the same as everyone else. It's actually something that we can quite enjoy. This is, food we can enjoy and not feel guilty. So vibrant colors, we can break that code and create change and make people see chocolate in a new light. This is at Whole Foods. Get it? It's incredible. The other end of the spectrum is icons, and we all know who these are. These are the massive guys out there. These are the big guys who have been defining categories. They have such big brand truths that we all know and we've lived with for years, but sometimes they need to optimize. They're not sort of working to their best, and we work with them how to get them to their best and really make sure they still are leaders in their categories. Ben & Jerry's new redesign globally is something we've just finished up, and they sort of had an issue where all their designs across the globe weren't cohesive, they weren't working together. And Ben & Jerry's, although they're full of fun and personality, are a premium ice cream, and they weren't behaving like that, and they weren't really showcasing their flavors. So we developed a system of the flavor towers you'll see on the left, all coming together to really highlight how delicious this food was. Start cleaning up the pack so it can behave in a premium way, but not losing that fun personality with the creative way we're showing ingredients, and Woody, who's the little cow that we discovered his name, interacts with it. So we still keep that personality that's still very much Ben & Jerry's. So what we believe is, we believe in good design, and good design can change. And what that does, it can change the world. It's an incredibly powerful thought that as designers, we can do this, and we should aim to do this. But what comes to the bottom line is when you get brands who come and work with us, is they're looking for a financial gain. This is why they're sort of changing it. So the really incredible question is, how do you get design to create money? Design is more than just an art form. It needs to be design effective. It needs to kind of work. It'd be incredibly easy to find, the market leader and do a Me Too, find out what they're doing and just do something similar. But it will never last. No one will really understand what your brand is, and you might have a little spike and steal some share, but it will drop very quickly. So you need to carve out your own space. And so the way to do this is through better design thinking and better design. And what that comes to is something that's, will become better for your brand, your consumers, and your business. So what we kind of see is then design isn't just a cost, it's actually an investment for a healthy business. And this is all kind of very easy for us to stand here and say that, but at Pearl Fisher we're very kind of proud of all our designs, and we track the numbers that sort of go with it so we can sort of prove this point. Green and Blacks, someone we've had a very long relationship with since they started out, all the way through since they've been brought and sold and brought and sold. And when we did this redesign over the 4 years, they grew 789%. Pretty sure most marketing people out there will be pretty happy with that.
Is that a real number?
So when it sort of comes down to it, these numbers are great, but they're sort of the end goal. It's not the sort of journey, it's where we sit there, we pat ourselves on the back, drink champagne and go, yeah, we're brilliant, we're great at this, but it's so much more. It's a lot about the journey, how we get there, how you kind of work together with the client and the sort of team. You need to have that kind of trust and that bond and be brave together. And that's, incredibly important. When sort of working on designs and rebranding things, there's a huge amount of pressure. There's endless kind of messages being thrown at consumers, what to do, what not to do, eat this, don't eat that. And I pretty much stop at, you can eat this and you can drink this. But when you're changing it, brands tend to have, you know, the existing market share, and there's always a worry that you're going to lose that brand. You know, I often get told we don't want to do a Tropicana, so that's always the thing that's out there, and I know there's a lot of pressures on brands. So what you can do, you can then hire the best agency out there. I'm just not going to point at anyone. And we can come up with the most amazing thinking. We can come up with the best ideas, and we can present it to you, but we can only be as brave as our client. You know, they're the ones who are going to be happy to go forward with it, and you need to have that bond and trust so you can take that leap together and have the full success, because that is what's going to deliver that bravery between a project that is a failure or a success. So these are the points we're going to want to show you on our project on Simply Balanced, sort of show you behind the curtain how we kind of got to the point, and what happens when Target and Pearl Fisher work together on a project. And you know, they have an incredible design philosophy that we really appreciate, and it's particularly why we love working with you guys. And I'm hoping David's going to say he quite likes working with us too.
So probably it's possible I'm one of the luckiest people in this room here today, in that I work for a Fortune 30 company that values design as one of the core elements of its DNA. And in the world of mass retail, design, creativity, and innovation is how Target differentiates itself from other competitors who focus mostly on price. A lot of the values that Hamish was talking about are core and very important to the Target brand. And I feel very lucky that I work for Target. We have a great reputation in that we've been credited with this idea of democratizing design. And this focus on design is both good from a business and a brand perspective, and helps us generate brand love among our customers, who we refer to as guests. This approach to democratizing design also carries through to what we call our own brands. And here's a representative sampling of what those brands are, where we try to take this idea of elevating the everyday and carry it through to brands like Up and Up, Room Essentials, and Archer Farms. We also recognize that we can't get there alone, that we rely heavily on partners like Pearl Fisher and others to take us where we need to go. And this relationship between Target and its agencies and partners is very much one of collaboration and shared accountability. This is just one example. It's a small example of a piece of work that Daniel Evans did for us to create this customized, sort of gorgeous food typography to help promote some of our own brands. One of the things as we got into this work, we realized is that, my mic is kind of fading in and out, is that our guest is increasingly wellness-minded. And we saw that we had an opportunity to combine a couple of our sub-brands, which were under the umbrella of Archer Farms Simply Balanced and Archer Farms Organic, into one holistic brand, which would make it easier for the guest to navigate the food space at Target and give us a little bit more credibility in the wellness space. So these two brands covered a lot of products, from eggs to milk to cereal to granola. So there's a pretty broad range of SKUs. So before we started this work, this is what the brands look like. One of the several challenges we faced is that, the positioning of these brands relative to the mindset of our guest was very much around looking like diet food. So what you see is on the right is what was Archer Farms Simply Balanced, and on the left is what was Archer Farms Organic. And both of those were sublines of the larger Archer Farms brand. And so one of the challenges we wanted to address as we got into this work is taking a stronger position around wellness that didn't cue that it was diet or clinical. And there's also this notion, if you see on the Simply Balanced packaging, this kind of extreme vertical band that carried a lot of data and nutritional content. And so to us, it didn't seem like it was very easy for the guest to navigate that space or kind of know what the products stood for. So that's when we enlisted the help of Pearl Fisher.
So we were lucky enough to get this job. We'd finally sort of broken Target down, and they let us, take this job on Simply Balanced. We're all high-fiving in the studio, jumping around, celebrating. And then we're quickly like, right, let's get back to what we do best and follow our process. And when we take these jobs on, we always like to have a really good immersion with the sort of brand team, with the clients. They know so much about this brand, and it's the sort of only time we can ask kind of stupid questions like, what is Simply Balanced? Before we have to kind of look intelligent about what we're doing. So we always tend to go to their place. So we went down to Minneapolis. They have an incredible room there that has all the brands around it. We're fully immersed. They have some incredible insight into their guests, told us who the target they're going after, and we sort of got all the sort of downloads. And one of the things I think is very important when you're doing this, you can be very professional and sitting there and talking, discussing with the team, but more than that, you need to go out and be social, And one of the things that Dave and I like is a great steak. So we went out with the team and we sort of have a good night out. And it sort of works in both ways that, you get to know each other, but it breaks down those sort of barriers, those sort of boundaries, and you can step out of client mode, agency mode, and actually have a much easier conversation about what you're sort of talking about and be quite happy to sort of say, "That's shit, what you're doing," and not get offended by it.
We didn't say that about any.
David's very kind. So when we sort of have that, we sort of come back, we take all Target's learnings, all the information they've told us, and we sort of digest that along with the huge amounts of food that we've just eaten, back into our New York studio, and we start creating our design strategy, how we're going to approach this job. And people who know Pearl Fisher is we have a huge program called Futures, which looks at all kind of trends that are sort of going out there in different categories and analyzes shifts and movements that are happening. So we leverage that thinking and put that together with what Target has told us. And what we kind of knew is that Target wanted to create an authentic wellness brand that fits within their design philosophy under the umbrella of Target, but pulls it away from Archer Farms. And through our thinking, what we've seen in this healthy living, this kind of wellness, there's been a shift. It's gone from in this kind of prescriptive kind of form of like, you can't eat this, don't do that. Something that's very kind of negative, that kind of month of January when you've eaten too much over the holidays is so depressing because I'm not eating, I'm not drinking, and you hate about it and you don't want this kind of lifestyle. So actually something that's more emotional, it's more connection to you, it's more part of your life, and it's something you can enjoy, and it's actually something that you want to be doing, having a good life rather than like hiding away and sort of eating just one piece of lettuce. Is actually you can have a really fulfillment in having a healthy lifestyle. And what we've kind of seen, and we've seen kind of brands then starting to go back to the basics. It's how people kind of understand health. They sort of think of like the good old days when everything was wholesome, making it kind of simple. So this is an area that we can really start mining. But you need to have more than that. You can't just sort of put the kind of simple basics out there. You need to have a bigger connection. You need to sort of have, a rich, deep experience with it. It needs to be more emotional. You need that sort of depth. You need that emotion and that richness. And then sort of what came out of this strategy when we're sort of building on this, we came out with some values that we felt that, the new Simply Balanced brand had to be. Simplicity was key. Having a healthy lifestyle shouldn't be difficult. It shouldn't be a hassle. It should be very easy to do. It should fit in with your existing lifestyle. Everyone's incredibly busy working around there, and it should be easy. Being obvious. Healthy living means many different things to many different people. And you sort of use your intuition to what is healthy. You should be obvious to understand this. So when you look at that slide, you see the food there. I know that's a healthy meal. I'm not quite sure what's in it, but my intuition says it's health. If it was a huge pizza up there with lots of fries, I kind of know it's not. So you kind of get it. You know your body, you listen to it, and be able to start being obvious so people can listen to their bodies. We need to make it inspiring. it needs to sort of engage everyone. You know, healthy living isn't just for the beautiful people on the West Coast or on their mountain bikes on the hills, running along the beach. It's actually for everyone. And
it's for people in Minnesota.
Even people in Minnesota. You know, Target is incredibly democratic with all its kind of brands, and it fits into your lifestyle. So this brand needed to do that as well. And you know, Target had this incredible piece of insight that everyone sort of has different levels of wellness. So you have the mum who's teaching her child how much protein is in a stick of broccoli. You know, that really annoying child that sort of comes around your house and preaches to you. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there was the family that sort of goes to the drive-through every day for dinner, but they just, you know, taking that one step to be better and just actually sitting around a table at home and eating better. So there's a huge kind of spectrum, and we need to inspire everyone through this brand. We needed to be genuine. We needed to deliver on what we were saying. It needed to be, you know, great, wholesome food with amazing taste. We couldn't have something that was kind of cardboardy, uninspiring, untasty. We need to deliver on that taste as well as that wholesomeness. And it needed to be approachable. It's got to be for everybody. It can't be seen as elitist. It can't be something, oh, that's not for me. So it had to be friendly, had to be kind of something I can fit in with in my life. This speaks to me, so we had to be very approachable. And then knowledgeable too. We needed to empower the guest again. You know, forever we've been telling them with this long list of claims of what's in it, but we wanted to make it easy for her to understand, give her back the control, all the information, and be in charge of who she is and what she wants to buy and the type of lifestyle that she wants to live, rather than being dictated to. And these are sort of the values that we kind of shared with Target, and hopefully they cared. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So what sort of then happens is we have our strategy comes together in this beautiful deck we bring down to Target, and one of the things we learned quickly that Target is, you know, an incredibly well-run organization. They work extremely hard, but they also love really early meetings. So
this is true.
This is quite a late start for David today. But quite often we'd have sort of an 8 a.m. meeting, and coming from New York often meant I was up at 4 a.m. catching a plane. So thanks, David. What we do when we do our sort of thinking, we present kind of our strategy, our kind of futures, how it relates to their brand, how it relates to Target, how it relates to shifts and changes in healthy living, is we then create these what we call design platforms. And they're sort of aimed at different areas that we can kind of mine and start thinking about. And we find these incredibly useful because you know, you can have all this great thinking in this talk, and you can kind of, what I talk to our strategists in the studio is the creative setup, and it's kind of literally setting us up, you know, without any visuals. How does the clients know what you're going to draw? So we have to give them kind of just loose kind of inspiration, like where our imagery is going, our kind of color palettes, maybe typography, just a sense that opens up different areas and how we can separate it and pull maybe possible routes apart.
Yeah, and these are important to me and to the Target team. You know, one of the things Hamish hasn't mentioned yet is the very aggressive timing that was associated with this work. So basically we had, literally, not making this up, 5 weeks from the beginning of when we kicked off this work to ProFisher to when the concept had to be approved. So you'll see as we get through into this work a little bit deeper, the sort of volume and speed at which ProFisher was able to move was pretty incredible, I thought. And these territories that Hamish is talking about are very helpful for us as we take this work and socialize it with our internal partners who are, you know, non-designers. They're very focused on the business of the brands, and this kind of these territories help us take the work to them very early on, get some stakeholder input, get some direction around. Okay, when I see everything in moderation, I get a very clear sense of what that might look like when it comes to life on packaging, versus something like expression or experience. So it really gives us a chance to get early input and work much quicker as an internal team with our agency partners.
Easy.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Yes, this is me. So one of the additional challenges we faced with this work was around the name. So there wasn't a whole lot of equity around Simply Balanced. Our guests didn't know the brand. It was under the Archer Farms umbrella. At the time, we were also going into Canada, so there were some unique regulatory concerns around the name. So we faced this challenge of, do we go with Simply Balanced or do we parallel path a second name, which I can't reveal to you today, but imagine that it's a really fantastic, wonderful
It was an unbelievable
brand
name.
It's just so amazing. You'll see it kind of blurred out in some of the work that we're going to share with you, but this was another kind of layer to the work is, what do we want to stand behind for this brand? Do you want to stand behind Simply Balanced? You want to sort of create a unique sort of new name to launch into the stores? And so we ended up staying with Simply Balanced for a variety of reasons, but it was just another layer of complexity to this work.
So you'll see this incredible name sort of blurred out in a couple of places. I promise you it wasn't rude. But when we sort of come back, we presented our strategy, we've got alignment from the client, you know, they got senior partners kind of buy-in, we get the thumbs up, and we sort of go back to the kind of studio and start working. And people who know me, you know, very keen on people actually sort of sketching and drawing first. I think it's the way you should create. People who jump straight on the Macs, I think it can hold you back. The Mac is just a tool to implement, not create ideas. So we wanted to show you a few of the kind of sketches to kind of see where we started out, sort of the sort of loose thinking, the ideas, and we have a short little video. You can see some of the kind of crazy stuff we started to come up with, which I'm hoping will play. Is that playing?
Looks great.
Yeah. So you'll start seeing, we start playing with typography there, start thinking of like units and lockups, how we can start maybe showcasing food in the information. Can we kind of start playing with the word balance, being descriptive about the sort of different areas, you know, building that into the actual identity. Starting to think about how you might contain food and photography in ownable ways. How we can kind of get personality sort of coming there, lots of kind of typography sort of getting there. Can we kind of have bold, expressive kind of graphics coming there? Can we be simple? Can we be better than that? That was a bit shit, that one. Of course, we had to try something that was balancing. Terrible, but you have to kind of draw those ideas out. So like, is there something that's more emotive and kind of expressive as well? So we had lots of sort of different areas, very kind of loose. We kind of get together and work as a team and sort of pinpoint, hey, there's some nugget of an idea in some of these. And they need a lot of work, they're very loose. But now once we've got that, we can start sort of thinking how we can then sort of get on the Mac and start sort of bringing these to life a little bit. So we kind of get to the area when we start concepting. Can we sort of go back to the strategy, really think about what we've done. We've got our sketches, we've got some foundations of some concepts, make sure we're tying back to the boards that the guys have seen on our design platforms, and then start curating concepts.
This is one of the brand names that we can't show.
Yeah, this is we promise not the rude name. Yeah. Please don't squint, you might be able to work out what it says. You know, so this kind of area it was about kind of experience, and we wanted to sort of play with kind of that lifestyle that's out there, and you know, bring that wholesome life, and it sort of takes you, you know, especially someone who lives in Manhattan, being out and seeing kind of green space, being free, seeing that countryside kind of gives me that wholesome feel, and can we tie that with kind of food in interesting ways? I particularly like the veggie patties with the kind of hammock there. You know, that's how I want to be sitting in my sort of garden enjoying, and maybe I'll put these on the kind of burger. And then find kind of ways to like use colored forms to be soft, organic, help flavor navigation across the range, and have large call-outs. You'll see the organic claim on the granola, and then you'll see sort of a 10 grams there. So there was a benefit that the guests could see. This then sort of led into other areas. Can we sort of take a more emotional kind of look at it? Can we be more expressive? Can we find ways that we can show food in interesting ways? Can we be quite artistic? Does it become very inspiring? That kind of handcrafted feel to it gives you wholesomeness. It touches back to that basics, taking things back there. You know, taking back to the hand like it's all been handmade.
Yeah, one of the things too, from a Target sort of perspective, this was the first time, that's my water that you're drinking.
We're very close.
Just want to stop you. This is the first time that we had worked with ProFisher, and there was a lot of emphasis and focus put around this brand, and it was done in a very accelerated timetable. So the work that he's sharing with you is these 5 or 6 directions literally were the 5 or 6 directions that were presented after 5 weeks of work. And Target's typically not the kind of client who will sort of brief you on a project, you go away for 3-4 weeks, then you come back and reveal this big kind of aha moment. We like to be, this is where the collaboration partnership comes into play pretty heavily, kind of having regular kind of conversations and check-ins with Hamish and the team as they're kind of working through this, developing this work.
Yeah, and I think that's incredibly important. It's not that we sort of disappear. We kind of work together. It's, you know, it's not like we come back and go, aha, this is it, and it's the first time they see that. You know, there's a lot of conversations that are sort of going on behind the scenes as we're doing this and finding kind of new expressions. So this is another kind of motive way, tying that hand done in with illustrations. To kind of roots where we're trying to be bold and iconic, and I'm sort of playing there, can we sort of have an SP logo suggest simply balanced, you know, it changes to show that kind of variety. I think David said this looks more like BS to me, and probably was. Quite a lot, and quite honest, I think he was right. So go back, let's rethink the logo, make it sort of more working, but keeping that idea, this ever-changing, this kind of variety, this blend of interesting things starting to come together, and sort of finding ownable ways to do photography, the overhead, show the ingredients, show the end product.
I don't know what you were thinking of.
I think this is one when David thought, I was probably smoking a bit much. Went back to the 70s. It came with an idea of having it all in one place, but yeah, I think David was right. And then sort of going on, can we sort of be very kind of bold? Can we start playing with iconography? The corn chips, the cactus. Kind of makes sense. You know, they've got the sort of roller for fruit strips, and then sort of you have that moment of doing milk and go, is this genius to put udders on milk? Is this kind of crazy? Or we get a bit mad? Or we get together, we kind of debate this with the sort of team, and we go, well, maybe it's good, let's kind of try this to something else. And we get to veggie patties, and we're like, what do you put on that? We can't do a carrot, that's not there. We put a rabbit on. We've just been offensive now. I apologize to every vegetarian out there, so that stopped. We'll move on. So then we love kind of putting personality into work. Can we be bold? Can we bring that kind of character in there? Can we have illustration working in with food? It gives a kind of ownable, a great standout on shelves, and start building an ownable style. We will then know, people who know us, we love tone of voice, we love words, we love sort of packs that start talking to you, so we thought, can we kind of lead with this? You know, simply sort of talking about it, so nothing added, nothing removed, just good stuff. Something that can connect with the kind of guest is really nice. Or can you have more personality, where I particularly like awesome on a bun? Who doesn't want to buy those?
This also was one that we loved a lot. The scale of Target presents a little bit of a challenge with a direction like this when you think about how you execute an editorial voice across 300 SKUs. It becomes very, very challenging. So scale plays an important role in the work that we move forward with.
That's when I always say to David, you can hire us to do all of it. If you want. And he says no. And then sort of getting back to, like, you know, we want to make sure what's into it is very much connected with the food itself. So can we kind of get that kind of connection? And David kind of touched on this, that it isn't something where we sort of disappear, it's working together. So we had check-ins in the you know, before the main thing, so work in progress sessions. So the team from Minneapolis came up to the New York studio. We tried to make it really early to get our own back. But we sort of keep it very loose. You know, we're not overly precious about the work. We just have printouts on boards. We sit around. So you can see it's quite casual, informal, so there's no pressure on it. No one's getting upset when people are going, what the fuck is that? You'll see that, you know, we scribble all over the work, things we like, things we don't think are working, things that can work kind of harder. And it's really a time for, you know, David and his team to sort of start engaging with us and really kind of being part of the process. One of the things that this was put in there, I realized I must have a haircut every time we do these shots. I look terrible. But then what's great, what's great working with David and with Target, that we've become such a great relationship that we're often texting each other, sort of thinking about it when you have the ideas, and it's always nice to pat each other on the back and go, hey, everyone's doing a great job here. Feel good about it.
If this is weird or good, but I'm texting Hamish about work.
I think that is a good sign of the collaboration, sort of partnership that we had.
And I pretend I'm like, oh God, it's David again. But out of that work in progress session sort of became the birth of what Simply Balanced sort of, as you probably know, is on shelf now. So we started talking about this kind of sense of a kind of meal, a kind of place, the product inside there. You'll see it starting to lock up. We kind of, do we have it white so we can really focus on the kind of food, these bullseyes there so it grabs your kind of attention. To start thinking, can we start playing with wholesomeness? Can we use the typography to kind of, that traditional sense of locking up? Perhaps it starts looking a bit cliche and a bit overdone when sort of doing that. Can we bring vibrancy, something that inspires? We sort of go back to strategy and realize that's what it's about, but maybe keep a little element of that sort of hand-done typography that's been there, but really hearing the food product that's sort of sitting there. And then, this pack has to work hard. It's got to carry information. Can we kind of get a system where it starts kind of building? It still has all the things. We like the kind of bullseyeing, we like the kind of color, we like the food, but can we make this sort of start working? And as sort of David said, this was sort of done in 5 weeks. I'll be like, yeah, no problem. But it was a lot of work in a very short space of time. And I think without that collaboration, we wouldn't have been able to sort of get there. But at this point, we sort of had this aha moment that we've been sort of dancing around, sort of touching on. We knew we were on something, but hadn't quite got there. And what it came down to is that people want this. People want this wholesome kitchen that sort of takes you back to, it was going back to my grandmother's. And I think our insight that everyone's grand seemed to have an amazing kitchen, and you all kind of remember that. But it seemed to have food in sort of better containers. It was that one step better. It was a great suggestion of how you can improve your life. So it isn't just cereal in a box, it's cereal in a mason jar. It has variety. There's all many different containers and vessels that are out there. We sort of talked a lot about if you open up your cupboard and just had a load of kind of white or green boxes, I mean, how depressing is that? You want variety, you want choice and enjoyment, so you want your kitchen to look like this. This is taken from David's house.
Yeah, right. That's every Minnesota.
Yeah. So again, we love to pat each other on the back. Yeah, we come up with a great idea, texting each other, normally sort of thinking about it after hours, but it's great that we're on this sort of same page. So when we sort of did that, we sort of had a sort of round of refinements with the guys, and you start sort of getting to testing, where we had sort of our final 5 routes, which you could sort of see up there that went into testing. And this is a time for an agency which you get quite nervous about, especially when you're doing your first job with clients you wanted to work with for ages, and you're like, please, just one do well, just please, get away with it. But sort of out of that came...
This is it.
The winner.
How many of you, I'm just curious, how many of you have seen this on the shelf? Oh, wow. Okay, awesome.
How many of you like it? It was touch and go.
Okay, well, if that's Hamish's problem. No, so a couple of things about this. This was the very clear winner when we took the work through testing. Target, one of the things I love about Target is the way that we use testing, which to me is very different than a lot of traditional sort of CPG companies. For us, it's more of an exercise, a validation exercise, and a sort of make sure that we're on the right track and not doing something horrible kind of gut check. It's one sort of data point in the decision that we make on which direction to move forward. It doesn't dictate kind of the work or necessarily the direction we take. However, in this case, this family shot scored the highest of any own brand that we had tested before. So we felt very, very good about this work. We felt good taking it into testing. We felt good when we saw the results of testing. I'm not making up these quotes. These are actual quotes. So it's clear, simple, looks high quality and genuine. And my favorite quote from testing is this one. The granola in the jar gives me the feeling that it came from my grandma's kitchen. The milk in the bottle has the retro feel about it that makes me think of the wholesome milk I drank when I was growing up. So if we had asked them to say something, you couldn't have come up with better quotes from the guest research. It was unbelievable.
Oh, cool. And it only cost us $100 a pop to get them to say that. So, you know, you kind of get to the stage, you have the research, it qualifies, you're thinking you're happy, it's the route that everyone was really behind, and we're like, yeah, we know what we're doing. But you kind of get to the stage then you really need to button down and kind of get into the details. How do you kind of optimize this and make this kind of perfect? And, you know, getting to know me and David, we're both huge typographic nerds, and we spend sort of time kind of really kind of tweaking this and making it perfect so every element works well. So we started working into the logo back and forth, seeing what we can sort of do, playing with the right balance of should it be simply, should it just be balanced, should it be sort of hand done, have we just drawn a Christian symbol underneath it, is this a bit weird? Do we question blue? We're like, blue? Or we just sort of hit blue? What, you know, is that right? Should we look at different colors? No, blue's definitely the right way to go. We want to do that. Can we rework the type so there's a better balance? Is there a connection between the two? That kind of nice hand script, that kind of handmade with the authority, that approachability of the lowercase balanced. Getting, you know, right down there, and you wouldn't believe how many emails and texts back and forth between me and David, tweaking it, taking it one by one. I'll do a bit, he'll do a bit, he'll come back. And we sort of get to the point where you're like, yeah, I think we've kind of got this right. We sort of leave, you know, you have that kind of sleep test, and you sort of then both in the morning you're like, maybe we can make it a bit better. So there's another quick round, finally tweaks where you sort of like, can you really see the difference between these? But it makes us happy, and if it wasn't done, we'd be really annoyed about it. So we get there, and you know, the good thing we like that we're both at the same mindset, and we sort of have that persistence to really kind of drive brands to be where they are. So then that kind of, you know, we get to the kind of design, and it looks very beautiful, but you know, it still needs to sort of work hard.
Yep. So this, you know, the work that ProFisher did for us represented like a very small sampling of the total body of work. I think we did about 7 SKUs, and then there were slated to be about 150. And so as we get into the details, you know, I'm standing here, but I represent about 30 people back at Target who helped bring this design direction to life. And these are the things that are really important to us, of course, like how the brand extends across the variety of SKUs, sort of the way we deliver messaging and call-outs to the guest, the shoppability of the brand, making sure it's really telegraphic on shelf and really is easy for the guest to navigate and find. And so, you know, there's a ton of work that goes into this after we transition the work from ProFisher. You know, we do a lot of shooting, both in Minneapolis, New York, and other places. And like I said, there's a team of about 30 people that helps us bring this to life. So
yeah, you wouldn't believe the amount of vessels that we actually brought for that, and the poor team that had to go out. And this was actually done in LA, searching everywhere, finding different jars and bowls and plates, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's true.
So the thing with Simply Balanced is that, you know, we've got this clear, simple thing, had wellness, but you remember from the beginning there was all these kind of claims. They're still very important, and one of the things we did, we sort of very hard on target and said, look, you've got 8 claims on each pack, you can't have that, you need to pick the most prioritized one. That's what the consumer's looking for, that's what the guest is looking for, what's the most important one, and we need to call that out. So on the granolas, it was organic, and you can see then in the sort of button, you get Simply Balanced, you see organic, and you see the flavor, and then what you can do more subtly for the consumer who probably has the child that has the broccoli and the protein levels is looking for more information, and you'll see then there's a secondary and tertiary place to have that information based in the top left and right hand corners. So we can still in a way give all that information, but do it in a more considered way that doesn't hide the design and lets us kind of work on shelf very hard, give that appetite appeal, give that wholesomeness, but then have the right level information for each different guest as what they're looking for. And you'll see when we sort of deliver, we sort of touch the master SKUs when we do it, and we sort of hand it over to the Target team, and we give them a full guidelines that sort of show them how they can break this out and how they can do it, because you know there's a lot more SKUs that they have to touch than that we touch. So here's our final logo.
Yep, and I think, you know, we started off this project with this sort of mission to help our guests eat better, and I think the choices that we made to get to this place were really sort of supporting that strategy around a new evolving guest mindset around wellness and what Simply Balanced can stand for.
Yeah, and I think what we really created was a system that had to be incredibly flexible. There was endless different substrates, every in different formats, different call-outs that need to work in different categories. Some categories had kind of rules that you had to follow color coding, so milk, people kind of know what colors they're sort of looking for, if it's 1% or, you know, fat-free, to being able to show variety across the kind of range, so maybe different flavors. So how do you make granola all look different when it's a whole big shelf set?
So one of the things I love about this packaging, you know, packaging is really important to my world at Target. It's also important to the company. It's the one place that we can make a connection with the guest in her home beyond the store experiences. So we really recognize the importance and value of packaging. And for us, this direction was a really ownable approach for Target. It was really telegraphic. It worked hard on the shelf. But also, when this was sitting in a guest pantry in the refrigerator, it was a really great way to express what this brand stood for and how Target comes to life within this brand.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what it showed, we touched on sort of having that variety, you know, what everyone kind of wants, and you certainly get that when you start seeing the whole range starting to sit together, and the sort of vessels sort of do a great job, and, you know, even there are some SKUs, you'll see the sort of pasta sauce there, you know, don't have vessels. It was, you know, it didn't kind of work on that SKU, so it had the flexibility to maybe sort of break a couple rules, but still very much feel part of the family. And as you kind of see, as we kind of started rolling it out, you'll see the granola, you know, how can we make this feel different? So we have the different colored bullseyes on there, but you also start seeing there's different actual jars. You know, we can have different expressions. We can have that fun about it. We can have that playfulness. We can take you back to that grandmother's kitchen, and we can start doing flavor propping, you know, have the ingredients next to it, but it's all naturally lit. It feels very beautiful, and it feels like the kitchen you kind of want to have. What's then nice, you can take this idea and roll it on. So on the back of pack, you can keep the story going. So perhaps you've kind of just finishing this, or you can have space to kind of start talking about recipes that you might sort of make with the kind of granola, like granola rice pops. So it become a very fun sort of way and be able to carry the idea holistically throughout the whole brand. Even then, when we got to things like pasta is very important that you have transparency. We couldn't just show a photograph of it. For some reason, people want to see the actual pasta itself, feel it, so we need to sort of carry that through. How did we do that on this pack? So we actually just shot the top of vessels and then did a die-cut window so you see through. Still keeping it together, but being able to make sure this system is flexible and to carry it through, and you'll see then things like the spaghetti just has a tie around it, so it feels very natural. And coming up with new creative ways, working with the design team at Target to get through all these different challenges as they rolled out the brand. Then when you have products, you know, wanting to show the different colored liquids with the teas, these are one of my particular kind of favorites. They feel very beautiful, and making sure the vessels don't overpower the food, the product. You know, that's what people are buying, and they want to have that appetite appeal, and being able to use that sort of beautiful photography to really sort of highlight the product inside, and even little touches onto kind of the bags.
Yep, so good news. When we launched the brand, it met Target's pretty aggressive sales goals. Also, it's allowing us to reach different guests, more of a millennial guest than we had with the previous packaging approach. And it started off as 150 SKUs, and now it's about 400. So for us, that's a really big metric of success.
Yeah.
So,
go.
Yeah. What would you say are the principles of a successful partnership, Hamish?
Well, I think, you know, we touched on it today, that you have to be like-minded. You have to make sure both guys are on the same page, you know, from agency and client. If you're fighting against each other, it's not going to be successful. You're in it together. It is a partnership. It's not good guy, bad guy. You need to work together. I think that's a key fact. Fearless thinking. We touched on this a lot today. It's about being brave. Having that cut through is the difference between success and failure. And the key part of it is that you're doing it together and you trust each other. You're taking that leap of faith together, and you're both in it. It's not someone who's nervous going, you know, what the hell are you doing? So that fearless thinking needs to come from both sides. And then open communications. You can't sort of go off and disappear and come back and be surprised where they're like, well, what the hell have you been doing? It's very much a partnership. It's not a brief given to an agency. You disappear and come back and present it. You're in it together. You're working together. You know, feel free to give your client lots of work to do. And then probably then the most important part about it is find something you both like, having a good steak, going out, enjoying those moments, relaxing, take all the stress away from the actual work and sort of work together, and that's how you'll get great success for both design, clients and agencies. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.